The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Greetings and welcome to another part of our series of webinars that are exploring and diving deep into the National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals Code of Ethics. I'm pleased to welcome you. My name is John Raphael. I'm the Director of Educational Services at the National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals. And these webinars are being brought to you by the NADSP and also the Regional Centers for Workforce Transformation, which are funded by the New York State Office for People with Developmental Disabilities. We're excited to bring these webinars because ultimately we know that direct support professionals especially need development, they need education, and they need some form of understanding about how important the code of ethics and ethical practice is in their work as direct support professionals. So a little bit more about these webinars. You can advance the slide there, Scott. We created these to be kind of short, and that's on purpose. Often webinars are about an hour long, but ultimately these webinars, they're short. They're about 20 minutes with some time for questions and answers, and that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to introduce you in a couple seconds to my colleague and my friend Scott, who's going to be doing this particular webinar on the NADSP Code of Ethic Respect. But ultimately, again, as I said before, these webinars are co-sponsored. The National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals and the Regional Centers for Workforce Transformation in New York State have been working closely together to develop all types of programming and development tools and educational resources for direct support professionals. So this is one of them, and we're pretty darn excited about this particular series of webinars. The recordings of these webinars will be available on the Regional Centers for Workforce Transformation website, which is workforcetransformation.org. And they'll also be available on the members section of the NADSP website. So you'll be able to not only hear this webinar live, but also enjoy it and listen to it at any given time and stream it from those websites. So that's what we're going to do today. But I'm going to give it over to my friend and my colleague, Scott Bradshaw. And Scott is a person that he'll introduce himself, but he's a person I've known for quite a few years now. And if I had anybody do a webinar on the topic of respect, it would be Scott Bradshaw. Scott Bradshaw is a National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals faculty member, meaning that he works in contract with us. And I've worked closely with Scott several times around the country. And what we do is we go and we train and educate and develop direct support professionals. But he is going to lead the show today on the code of ethics and the tenet of respect. So without further ado, I hand it over to my friend, my colleague, Scott Bradshaw. Scott, up to you.
Hey, John. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. So glad to be here with you today. And as John sort of suggested, I'm really thrilled to be talking about the NADSP's Code of Ethics and specifically the tenet related to respect. Before I get into it, though, I'd really like to take a moment to thank the NADSP and the Regional Centers for Workforce Transformation for this opportunity to be a part of the webinar series. I'd also like to compliment the excellent work that's already been done on previous webinars by my fellow NADSP faculty members. I really hope I can meet the high bar that's been set by them up to this point. John said it a moment ago, had he asked me which of these Code of Ethics tenets I'd want to be involved in, I would have absolutely jumped at the chance to do respect. So why don't we just get started here, okay? All right, so what we're looking at is the 9 tenets of the NADSP's Code of Respect and Code of Ethics, excuse me, and today I'm going to be talking about respect. So I believe all people should focus on respect every single day. It's so important to be respectful in all of your interactions with other human beings. It's certainly true as well for all of us direct support professionals and other employees of provider agencies supporting people with disabilities. Before we move on, I'd like to say that I think I can make the case that respect is so important, it can be connected back to all of the other tenets in the Code of Ethics. My meaning is this: if you always focus on respecting a person, it's very likely that you'll be meeting the expectations of the other tenets of the code as well. We're going to come back to that thought a little bit later. This, my friends, is the Code of Ethics Preamble, and this was discussed at length by both John and Joe Macbeth, the Executive Director of the NADSP, in the first webinar of the series. And in reviewing it, I did think it was interesting that in the purpose section, respect is mentioned as a critical component of a supportive relationship. You know what? I couldn't agree more. So what are we looking at here? This is the code's opening statement about respect, and this is what it says. It says, as a direct support professional, I will respect the human dignity and uniqueness of the people I support. I will recognize each person who I support as valuable and promote their value within communities. I hope you noticed that I made a point of bolding the two words uniqueness and valuable. Both are important in understanding and embracing this particular tenet. We're going to be discussing people's uniqueness very soon. But it's important for me to mention that seeing and understanding that each person you support has value, that's critical and important to the tenet of respect. When you value something, or in the case of the work that we all do, when you value someone, it's much easier to respect them. So we want to take a closer look at this tenet of respect and explore how direct support professionals should think about and how they should embody respect when supporting people. So this tenet goes on to explain the following. We should, as direct support professionals, seek to understand the people that we support today in the context of their personal history, their social and family networks, and their hopes and dreams for the future. I agree with that statement. While it's true that there are simple and basic approaches to respecting people that are universal, like smiling at someone, saying please, saying thank you, other things along those lines. Some aspects of respect have to be understood as very specific to the person in question. Remember, the code referred to people's uniqueness. In other words, you'd have to know about a person's background, about their history, their family, their aspirations, in order to properly demonstrate respect to them. Work is so very important in the life of any adult, and a large part it's how we define ourselves. We stay lucky, it's how we engage our passions and hopefully pay the bills at the same time. So how often do we hear about a person that we support? They want to work. It's his or her future dream. Does that mean that we as staff, as support professionals, should stick that person in any old job that we find and then consider that a success? Well, of course not. Especially not if we're looking to respect that person. We respect that person looking for work if we take the time to get to know them, if we find out what types of jobs he or she are interested in, if we educate him or her about what that work entails, take the person to places where that work is being done so it becomes more of a first-hand experience, then we get involved in exploring what opportunities are available for the person. That's respectful. The code continues and says that we as support professionals recognize and respect the cultural context, such as a person's gender, disability, religion, sexual orientation, ethnicity, socioeconomic class of the person supported, and his or her social network. So respect that is specific to a person also has to take into account these aspects of that person's life. Regarding religion, I actually have a great example, and we just had the wonderful end of the year holiday season. So I can remember at the start of my career, like many of you, I worked as a direct support professional, working in a certified group home here in the state of New York. And as it turned out, in that particular group home where I was working, many people who were living there were of the Jewish faith. Now, as a person, I happen to be raised Catholic. I didn't have any family members who were Jewish. I didn't grow up with any Jewish friends. Essentially, I didn't have a lot of knowledge about holidays like Hanukkah or firsthand experience with food items or any of the things that are really important for this particular end of the year holiday. I didn't know the first thing about latkes, kugel, chocolate-covered macaroons, or even what gefilte fish was. So I had to ask questions. I questioned my supervisor, who actually happened to be Jewish, so that was very helpful. Other senior staff who had been working there and celebrate some of these holidays prior. And of course, I also had to speak with the people that live there to begin to understand how they like to celebrate this particular holiday. I needed to learn, essentially. And it was only then that I could properly support the Jewish people living at that home and be respectful of their holiday traditions. Continuing on, the code states direct support professionals should honor the choices, the preferences, abilities, and opinions of the people that we support. Choices, preferences, abilities, opinions, and honor. They're all important words, and they are important aspects of life. All people like to make choices. And it's respectful when DSPs assist the people that they support in exploring options. All people have preferences. When DSPs help people explore options, they can discover their preferences. And please note, while any person might have a preference, that doesn't mean that we want that to be our only choice in life. All people have abilities, and it feels really, really good when someone recognizes our abilities and our strengths, right? Well, it's respectful for DSPs to assist the people that they support to showcase their abilities, showcase their talents, and also to receive recognition for it. We all like that pat on the back. All folks have opinions, and it's a demonstration of respect when DSPs encourage the people they support to state their opinions, take the time to listen to their thoughts and feelings, and adjust our supports according to that. Code goes on to say that as direct support professionals, we will protect the privacy of the people that we support. Very important. I don't want to spend too much time on this since my NADSP colleague Don Trainer did such a nice job of it during his webinar back in October. But of course, we should be mindful of the wishes of the people that we support and keeping private things private. At the same time, we also have other responsibilities as support professionals, so we should always be cognizant that when a concerning issue arises, we are obligated by certain laws or perhaps agency policy to break that silence to protect the person that we support from harm, exploitation, being taken advantage of, et cetera. We want to keep people safe, of course. As a direct support professional, I will interact with the people I support in a manner that is respectful to them. And again, highlight on that word, respectful. I'd like people to think about the following. Let me throw out a couple questions. How do we greet the people that we support? Do we say hello? How do you say hello? Does it sound genuine? Do we offer people a handshake? Isn't that the way we greet most people we meet? Our approach really does tell us a lot about how we respect people or a particular person. The reason I selected this particular image for the slide is because when anyone reflects first on a person's disability, it completely alters how we see that person, how we think about that person. That little cross out there helps us as direct support professionals to refocus on what's important. What's important is the person, not the challenge that they may be facing in life. And do we ask a person's permission before we offer them assistance? So for example, if I was assisting someone named Frank, hey Frank, would you like me to help you with that? How would you like me to help you? These types of questions really should be asked many times every single day by every single direct support professional in our field. I can't think of a more important and essential way to provide respectful support and to do it in a way that recognizes a person's wants and desires. As a direct support professional, I will provide opportunities for the people I support to be viewed and treated with respect and embraced as integral contributing members of their communities. Treating the people you support respectfully while out in public helps to set the right tone for everybody else out in the community. People with disabilities deserve the same treatment as everyone else. It's all about being fair and treating people as equals. I love it. I absolutely love it when I hear direct support professionals chatting up the people that they support in a friendly manner. It's like it's two people just having an everyday conversation, because that's the way it's supposed to be. That's the way it should be. If typical exchanges between support professionals and the people they support always sounded like this: hey, Scott, you need to follow me, okay? Scott, it's time to head back to program. Or maybe, Scott, let's do your meds now. Or, Scott, say hello to the teller. These are, they're called directive statements. You're essentially telling a person, all right, this is what you need to do next. And communication like this conveys the following message to everybody within earshot. This person doesn't know what to do. Every person in the world needs help from time to time. All of us do. But why are we in this manner calling attention to that fact? Instead, we really should be, our role is to guide people. It's to teach people, prep the person for what's coming next so that they can be more independent and be seen differently. Also, please, this is really critically important. You have to consider your tone of voice, your choice of words, the cadence of your speech, and also whether you should actually be stating this privately to a person instead of, sort of out in the open. I have a litmus test for this. This is something I really focus on a lot when I'm evaluating how much a support staff respects a person. Okay, and this litmus test is this: if you can hear a staff person's voice, okay, and you can tell immediately that they're speaking to a person we support without seeing them or without knowing who they're talking to, then there is definitely room for improvement there. If you can't tell, then it's very likely that approach is more respectful. Moving on, as a direct support professional, I will promote the use of language that is respectful, sensitive, and also contemporary. It's just as important to speak about the people that we support in a manner that's dignified and respectful. There's been much discussion on this topic over the past 27 plus years I've been doing this work. Quite honestly, this topic could be its own presentation. And that's because our field has evolved, and it's still evolving. And with it, so has our language, mostly. It was referenced on the prior slide that the words we choose to use when talking about the people we support, it tells everybody who's listening kind of how we feel. And that's why if we use language that's at all derogatory or comes across as demeaning or it's just sort of odd when we're talking about the work that we do and the people that we work with, that kind of language sets the people that we support apart and not in a positive way. I had never heard the phrases high functioning, low functioning, and I realized that for as long as I've been doing this work, I've also never had a reason to use those phrases in my personal life as well. I'm a dad, have a son, and think back on some early achievements in his life. I was really proud on the day when he learned how to ride his bike. I mean, if you're a parent out there, any parents out there listening, you know what I'm talking about. And when I let go of the bike, kind of gave him a little push, and he pedaled off on his own, I can tell you it never occurred to me to yell out, "Great job! Look how high functioning you are." I was crazy. It sounds silly, doesn't it? Words or phrases like this, they exclude people, they segregate people, and therefore, folks, they shouldn't be used. I believe direct support professionals and provider agencies should only endorse language which is inclusive, welcoming, and of course, according to this, today's webinar, also respectful. Again, it says here that as a direct support professional, I will practice positive intention and transparency in my interactions with others. So what does that mean? This is what it says to me. We want to be positive when working side by side with the people that you support, as well as when you're supporting their families, supporting your coworkers, and also members of the public. Being intentional in your work, well, that means we should strive to do the right thing, but not by accident. We want it to be done on purpose. It's critical to understand that. We want to be transparent. This essentially refers to being honest and upfront with people while also being professional. So you may have mentioned a couple slides ago, I mentioned that there are 8 other tenets in the Code of Ethics, and I'm not sure that a direct support professional can actually live up to those other tenets while not being simultaneously respectful to the person. So let me try to make my case here. Is it respectful to schedule an ISP meeting for a person and not to include him or her in the discussions about the date and time? I have an answer. No, it's not. ISP development and discussion would certainly fall under the Code of Ethics tenet number 1, person-centered supports. But to meet those expectations, it also requires that a support professional be respectful of that person, so to include them in the planning. If a person you support explains that she's troubled by a disagreement that she had with a friend or a family member, should a DSP simply react by saying something like, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that," and then just go about the rest of their day? No, that wouldn't be respectful at all. The support professional should take
Hey, Scott. Sounds as though we've lost your phone. We've lost your connection. I'm sorry, folks. There's a little bit of a technical. Oh, there we go. You're back, Scott.
Hello. Oh, I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah. Why don't you start?
Where did you last? I'll pick up that paragraph again. Sure.
That'd be
So,
good.
can you hear me still?
Yeah, we're good. Thank you.
Awesome. Another example of how respect is really a part of all of the other tenets of the Code of Ethics. I was saying, imagine that there was a woman who informed her support staff that she was troubled by a disagreement that she had with a friend or a family member. Should that DSP react to that statement by saying, "Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear about that," and then just go about the rest of their day? No, that's not right. That wouldn't be respectful at all. Here's what the support professional should do. He or she should take the time to find out, well, what caused the disagreement? What was it about? How does this woman feel about what occurred? Is there anything that she would like to do to repair the relationship? And then, assist that person in weighing out her options. By engaging in a process of informed decision-making with this person, the DSP is not only being respectful, but also meeting the Code of Ethics tenets of, I would suggest, promoting physical and emotional well-being, self-determination, advocacy, and more. So respect is really, it's a part of it, a part of all of it, and it's just that important. So, before we wrap up, I'd like to ask a few questions to the members of our listening audience. Do you think you need the permission of your supervisor before being respectful to a person you support? Here's another one. Do you need the permission of your organization before being respectful to a person you support? That's an interesting question. What about this one? Do you need the permission of state regulations before being respectful to a person you support? I wonder. The answer is clearly no. No, you do not need the permission of anybody else before being respectful to anybody. Just do it. You are, in my opinion, you are deputized by your humanity to be kind and thoughtful and respectful to anybody you meet. And with my little 007 figure there, you possess a license to respect others. Use it. Use it liberally. And we here at the NADSP and the Regional Centers for Workforce Transformation encourage you to use these incredible skills to improve the lives of the people that you support. In in today's world, perhaps more than ever before, it's important to be truthful and credible. So in case anybody out there is wondering if I'm really committed to not only the Code of Ethics, but also this tenet of respect, I would like to offer you my office door as Exhibit A. Yes, it is definitely important to me. And by the way, that image that just popped up, that is a copy of the NADSP's tenet of respect posted there. I had a great time doing this webinar, so thank you for your time. And John, we got any questions out there?
Hey, well, Scott, first off, excellent, outstanding, and I just enjoyed this thoroughly. I think I'm going to review this webinar frequently. I'm going to actually use it in my training sessions as I go forth. I think you in 20 minutes you were able to encapsulate, what this thing that we hear all the time, right? Respect, respect. But you gave us the definition of it, and for that I thank you. So,
Thank you, John.
yeah, sure. So, a couple questions. Um, Back to religion, right? You indicated that when you were
Yes.
a young direct support professional, you had to learn about another religion. You came from one religion, you had to learn about another religion. And it doesn't really matter what the religions were, but you saw that you needed to respect people that practice Judaism, and you went forth and did that. Here's the question I have, or that is at hand here. What if somebody is feeling uncomfortable about going and exploring or helping a person they support with their religion? What do you suggest a direct support professional do in that case? Maybe, for instance, say somebody is themselves, I don't know, Catholic, and they're supporting somebody that wants to explore Buddhism, and they're
Mhm.
uncomfortable with that. What do you suggest? Any suggestions for that?
Well, sure. My first response would be that, I guess as I've approached my work in this field, even as a direct support professional, but certainly in the other positions I've been in, I kind of look at life as a bit of an exploration. So, I can't claim to be an expert on Buddhism or Taoism or a lot of other religions that are out there necessarily, but if somebody was interested in exploring that, personally, I would look at that as sort of a unique opportunity to just learn more about other people's lives and interests, and in this case, their religions. Um, and perhaps if a support professional frames it that way, they wouldn't necessarily be concerned about supporting the person to investigate more. So I put that out there. But certainly, I can also be respectful of another unique person's concern. And if something like that comes up, I think the honest thing to do is to just speak up about it professionally, and they could certainly speak to their supervisor to say, hey, given my values and beliefs, I'm a little uncomfortable in supporting this person in exploring their interest in this case in Buddhism, and certainly we could look for another staff person or support professional who is more open to that experience. I mean, for all we know, perhaps there's a Buddhist amongst us, and they would be thrilled to be able to support that person in learning more. There's always a way to connect the people that we support to other resources that are out there. We don't necessarily have to be everything for all people, but if a DSP is feeling some kind of a conflict, they should identify it, and then be that professional and bring it to the attention of your supervisor, so you could be part of assisting that person to connect with that resource, so that they can find out more, grow as a person. So that's how I'd respond to that question.
Great. No, that's I think a good response, and thank you for that. The other question, and then we have to wrap up because of our time limitation. Um, Language. You talked about low functioning, high functioning. We hear that so much. I hear that all around the country when I talk with direct support professionals. And I try not to be like the language police, but excuse me. At the same time, um, those are like you said, like your son learning to ride a bike. Wow, what a high functioning activity. It sounds absurd, but the reality is,
It is absurd.
yeah. Any pointers on how to, I don't know, how to monitor our language as direct support professionals?
Sure. I think part of it is just being. I think there's a sensitivity to it. That's certainly a part of it. I think every human being, everybody listening to this, we've all been in a situation where somebody has used words to describe us which we didn't appreciate. So there's a real, I think, universal understanding amongst all people that when that happens to you, you don't like it, and again, getting back to our tenet of respect, then, to properly respect all others around us, we'd want to be mindful of that. When you think about the evolution of language in our field, when I started, back in the 1990, the term du jour, if you will, for the people that we support was consumer. And then that shifted to individual. And now at my current organization, we're very direct about it. It's the people that we support, the men and women that we support, the children that we support, because it's honest, first off, but more importantly, we're always leading with the fact that they're people first. People are not their disability. I scratch my head these days after being in the field for so long, and I work with the autistic. The autistic what? They're people. So I think what's really important is help to establish at your work site, your program location, your organization, sort of a culture of awareness around this.
Right.
Again, like you said, you don't want to be the word police, but again, respect. So if I heard somebody use that kind of language like the people at my house, they're really high functioning, well, that is a teachable moment, and echo back to them what I would suggest is better language to express the exact same thing. So for example, I work at a house with and everyone there is high functioning. Oh, so they're really capable. They can do a lot for themselves. That's what you're saying? Because that's the kind of language I would use to describe, your capabilities, John, or most other people I meet. So that's what we have to look at. If these words, terms, and phrases we wouldn't use with anybody else but this group of people we're supporting, there's your problem.
Got it. Wow. Well, you just nailed it. Scott Bradshaw, thank you very much for your time. It's greatly appreciated, and what you've given direct support professionals in this webinar is invaluable. So thank you. Greatly appreciated. And for everybody listening and watching, we appreciate you for all you do. On behalf of the Regional Centers for Workforce Transformation and the National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals, and for direct support professionals in general, I thank you for listening, and tune in again. Thank you.